Scavenger SV-4 is a great little game about exploring an unknown, heavily irradiated world in search of cool junk to pawn off later on, provided you survive the expedition, of course. But this isn't a review of the game, so I'll save my thoughts on it for a later video. Today, I wanted to explore an idea. I think I can say this on behalf of everyone who's played this game, but we've all thought about this before. Wouldn't it be awesome to find a radiation-resistant camera which would allow us to see the world for what it truly is, instead of suffering that infernal noise? Sure, these technically exist in-game, but they only take pictures. They're not true video cameras giving us live feed of the action on the surface, and as such are impractical for most purposes. Well, I hate to break it to you, but no such live feed radiation resistant camera exists, but that's not to say we couldn't make one. I'd like to walk you through a personal journey of modding Scavenger SV-4 to lift the veil of irradiated secrecy and explore the world in a way few have ever seen before. To begin with, I thought that the easiest way to have a radiation-free camera would be to, well, create an object that would actually be found in-game and mounted on the rover. Well, several problems popped up within minutes. The biggest one being that you can't actually mod in new items, or if there is a way to do it, I wasn't able to find it. Seems like only minor graphical and sound modifications can be made to the game at this time, which is where I got my next idea. Then on the surface, the rover's view is pretty abysmal and there's not much you can do about it normally. So I thought to myself, all this noise on the screen, is it a texture of some sort? Maybe I could remove it. Sure enough, it is a texture. In fact, it's made up of 4 separate textures that change and rotate rapidly to produce the effect. Pretty clever idea, I'd say. I quickly realized that outright deleting the files may cause the game to refuse loading entirely. Not that I tested this, of course, so rather than doing that, I simply made them transparent. Was this a smart and simple idea that worked flawlessly? Hell no, it wasn't. It actually made things worse. Everything turned to a black and white featureless mess, which ironically made it even harder to see anything. I suppose if you were looking for a way to spice up a challenge run, this is the way to do it. But this mishap clearly demonstrates that the radiation noise is just a part of the whole mechanism. You can't just take one part out of it and expect it to work. Something else entirely needed to change. From here, I thought about turning the same textures into an awful jerry-rigged RGB filter thing, but to save ourselves some time and exposure to flashy lights, and also because I didn't feel like recording this, no, that didn't work either. By coloring the noise textures red, green, and blue respectively, I only made the rapid swapping of textures obvious, but it also showed another interesting thing. The noise was affected by some other filter because I didn't get any of the color to appear. They were all just different shades of white, which made the whole screen flash. Annoyingly so. So, not something I want at all. That's when I started digging around the files a bit more and discovered snippets of code in the shaders folder that seemed important and related. Fortunately for me, a thread regarding modding had popped up on the forums at the time, so I figured I'll just ask the dev about this and see if he can save me some time. And he did. He saved me hours of headache by just explaining which lines needed changing. You'll want to change this line here to this line instead, in a file called vidscreensimple.cg. And that'll give us the closest we've got to true, untainted vision. How hauntingly beautiful. Of course, you may be wondering, why is it all in red? Shouldn't it be in full color instead, since the radiation noise filter was lifted? Well, you see, it's not that simple. First of all, the filter is not really gone, it's just not rendered as intended anymore. According to the developer, RGB channels are used to render different datasets in parallel. Whatever that means. If I understood correctly, we're essentially forcing the red channel here to be viewed without the noise or any other filters or channels interfering. Though apparently trying to force all of the color channels to render at the same time would result in a mess similar to Fruity Stripes mode in Turok 2. I'm not smart enough to figure out how to do that though, and I didn't really want to bug the developer about this, since he seems like a nice guy who has better things to do, so we'll leave that for another time. I do find this to be pretty enlightening on how things work behind the scenes. It is true that the game becomes substantially easier and less interesting, just like the developer warned me. But the reason for it is precisely why the game was designed to be this way. Let's think about it for a moment. From the development perspective, what does this noise do? Well, it's not just here to ruin your screen recorder's bitrate or strain your eyes. It is there to add and maintain a level of suspense and mystery. Many objects from a distance can be just barely made out as anything other than landscape or featureless blobs, and you are naturally compelled to investigate. It could be something cool to see, or new loot to collect. It could also be aliens, alien derelicts which may wake up once more to fight you. The reality is that you never really know without putting in the effort to find out. It all just looks like featureless somethings until you come up closer. On the other hand, when the noise is removed, you can see stuff coming at you from a mile away and the mystery is gone. Therefore, you can easily prepare for it. Why bother going over there if you already know what's over there? Oh, I definitely don't want to go there either. That fucker's shooting at me. The lack of noise also makes it clear what ruins are empty. It stops hiding the graphical blemishes, which makes the game less appealing to look at. And it also makes it easy to tell if there are any feral creatures lurking about, waiting to crawl into your rover. These guys are normally pretty hard to see even from up close due to their unusual lanky bodies, which are further obscured by that same noise. The noise on the rover camera is an important, if not entirely integral, part of the overall gameplay loop. Without it, everything becomes trivial, boring. Nothing compels the player to go exploring. And it also reveals the generated map that you play on is actually pretty small. A lot smaller than expected, in fact. Look at that. I can see the edge of the fucking island right there. Removing it as the developer suggested is just not worth it beyond educational interests. And as such, I really wouldn't recommend playing the game this way. Unless, of course, you already played plenty enough with the noise on. With that said, that's all I had to show for this video. Thank you for watching.